Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm Liz Hyman, and each week I'm joined by your crew of seasoned sales experts who have navigated these waters and come out victorious. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, your host, and I'm here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Renee Bigelow, Daryl Prell, and Mike Simmons. And today we're talking about AI. And in the last 3 episodes, we talked about how salespeople can use it, how sales leaders can use it, and how consumers are using AI in their buying process. But one of the things that we are all really aware of is the amount of noise that AI can create. And I will give you an example. I keep saying I get 4,000 emails a month, but I realize I get 4,000 emails a month in my newsletter folder. That also includes people who are sending me emails that I didn't ask them to send them to me. I also have a junk folder. And I haven't counted how many emails come up in that junk folder. And I have the folder that is the stuff that I actually, there are people that I'm actually interacting with. They already know me. I already know them. So I don't know how many thousands of emails a month that is, but when we're talking about noise, that's the starting place, right? I have to get through all of that before I can start thinking about other things. I want to share another way that I think that AI creates a tremendous amount of noise. And for me, and I know this is going to sound funny, but because I'm an introvert, and most of it, if you know anything about introverts versus extroverts, introverts solve problems internally. They may gather information, but they solve it internally and then they put it out there and they may get input. Extroverts tend to go out into the world and gather information, sort it around, and then whatever they're doing comes out of all of that sorting of all of this data. So for me, I go to AI and I say, hey, will you help me solve this problem? And we go through however many iterations. I must have had 75 versions of my bio when I, had to stop and walk away and start again because it was just too much noise. How do I deal with all of the things that I'm getting from the AI that I'm asking for, let alone the other noise that's out in the universe? And you guys may have other thoughts about AI and noise and how it creates noise and how we can get through all of that noise. Like an AI tool, I use a toolbox called Say Later, which actually sorts through my email and figures out what's not critical and puts it in the Say Later folder, which is kind of my newsletters folder. So a junk mail also does that, right? So the second thing is are there tools that we can use? And this is going to be a pretty short podcast, but I think I've set you up. Who wants to start? Mike, I think this was something you really wanted to dive into. So why don't we start with you?
So how do you eliminate noise? You start to cut things off. You put things like headphones on or blinders on and keep this level of focus. For one part is figuring out what do you want to focus time, energy, and attention on. And the key question I like to ask, and we've talked about this a bit over the course of this episode and others, is what is the specific problem we're looking to solve? So if I can narrow in on what is the specific problem I can solve, then I can start to focus time, energy, and attention on solving that specific thing. And it just starts to narrow focus to cut down noise and eliminate it. There is so much noise that's out there. So many people are out there talking about this new thing. I think the one that's getting a lot of attention right now, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, these AI coaches, because now it's super easy to create video. I've got a video out there where my dog asks an interview question, and that's using Hedra as a tool. And the dog picture came from ChatGPT. And it was a version of taking my dog and applying it into that context. If I can do this stuff, a lot of other people can do this stuff. And if a lot of other people are doing it, more and more people will continue to do it. And it's just going to create more and more noise out there. So get back to that. Hey, what's the specific problem? that I'm looking to solve? What's the specific job to be done here? And if you're not familiar with job to be done framework, take a look at Clayton Christensen. Do a search for Clayton Christensen, milkshake, and HBR. Those things will show the job to be done framework or job to be done concept, and you can start applying it in this concept. So that's how I work to eliminate noise. Problem to be solved, job to be done.
I just want to know, was your dog sitting while they were asking the questions?
Dude, it's absolutely hilarious, Daryl. It's in the animated version, the dog actually has fingers, which is a little bit freaky. But in the more produced video version, again, using Hedra, it's insane how close the lip syncing is. What's super weird is the first time I did it, I had it have my voice. So my voice with Grizz's mouth moving was a little bit weird. So then you start to go in and add in some other voices in there, but you can even do that. So it can take your voice and change your voice around. So at some point in time, I'm going to sound like Daryl Pearl.
That's too bad.
Renee, you want to chime in? Yeah. I mean, you all know I use a ton of AI, but I do try to be very deliberate. I mean, there's always FOMO, right? There's always something. Daryl's talking about a new tool. You're talking about a tool, right? There's always FOMO, like, oh, I need to check it out. I keep a list of the things that I feel like are important that maybe I'm going to need on my next step or want to be's. A lot of the video tools are kind of want to be's for me, but many of them have very short time limits. So my trade-off for what I'm going to get out of those now is not as high as what I need it. So I kind of have those on my wants, not my needs, right? But making sure that you understand your needs well enough. I just shared with someone today, ChatGPT released GPT-5, right? OpenAI's releases have been buggy and problematic over the last year or so. They're on the frontier releasing the most innovative, cutting edge things, right? But when they release it, it causes a problem if you are on deadline and there's a bug or a problem or an issue and you're trying to get some work done today that you need to get done. So I have redundancy and I tend to lean into systems that are dependable for the basic things and have basic workflows that I know I can rely on if AI is worked into those, right? So I think that's one level. And then I have my experimentation bucket and the things that I'm always working on. And then I have the, how much am I eating my own dog food and living it? If I need to know what consumers are doing, what salespeople are going through, what CEOs are expecting, all these things, I set aside time to do that. But I'm very deliberate now. I can't say that I always have been, but there's so much coming at us all the time and so many best practices whizzing around. I'm very deliberate in making sure of where those buckets are. And for me at the moment, the thing that I'm most focused on is where consumer behavior is shifting more than what tool can I play with to do things. And I think that's different for everybody, right? I'm not the person that has an assignment list of pushing out content every day inside of a marketing team. There are people I work with that is their number one thing, right? So I think really being clear about what your goals are. And I know Daryl said, Mike said the job's to be done. I think that's very fair, but also kind of bucketing what your goals are and what you need to rely on versus what you can tolerate experimentation and blips and bugs and, ripples in your workflow from. I think those are the things that have really kind of calmed the noise for me so that when I'm in a very busy week, I know where I can go and get things done without it sucking me in.
So I'm gonna give you an example. Thinking that AI is going to solve your problem, and then you spend a lot of time and it doesn't work the way you thought. So I needed a spreadsheet. And my initial thought was, this is going to take me forever. I have a list of companies. There were 40 companies. And I wanted to know certain things about them, how big they were, how much, how many employees, how much revenue, what product did they sell, what year were they established. I don't remember what the other piece was. And I was like, this should be easy. This is something ChatGPT should be able to do. 2.5 hours later, my message to ChatGPT was, I don't understand. I've asked you to do this, and you continue to give me spreadsheets that are only halfway filled out or have fictitious information. And you keep asking me if I would like you to replace the fictitious information. And I keep saying yes. So then I asked ChatGPT, how can I do this in a way that you can give me the answers I need, right? 2.5 hours into this. I'm like, this is a simple thing. Then ChatGPT informed me, I can only do 5 at a time. Like, oh. So I've had to let it do 5 at a time, 5 at a time, 5 at a time, wait till it was all done, and then ask it to combine it into one spreadsheet, right? That, for me, was a level of noise I did not have the time or patience for. Right? So, part of this is what we talked about in the first episode about AI, which was prompting, learning how to prompt, but also understanding what the tool you're using can and can't do. And that is a long process, and it's noisy, and it's bumpy, and it requires a tremendous amount of patience, which I will tell you I was born without. And we're thinking about using AI. I think that's part of the noise people are worried about. Is it going to do what I think it's going to do? Is it going to do it right? Is it going to take a lot of time? Mike, it looks like you've got a thought you want to share about this.
The thing I would add to it is, and it gets into that clarity around jobs to be done. Don't make the job multiple jobs. Do a job, just one job, and just outsource that one job first and see how it does it, and then start to add other jobs, and then maybe pull those back together, which is a cool part of the process that Liz figured out, even though it was frustrating to go through and do it. And then this is where even asking those questions, like, what are the limitations that I'm not seeing? What are your limitations? What's getting in the way of you being able to do it? The list building that Exa can do is phenomenal. I used to think I couldn't imagine being able to do some of the things that I've done over my career in sales today with the access that we have to information via LinkedIn. Like, had I had that earlier on, wow. But then the other one is now this stuff, and it's like, wow. So I look at it and I think, how can we help the sales professionals of today and tomorrow do those things? Because again, wow, amazing what we'll have in front of us. So that's the only other thing I would add is just understand what the limitations are as you go through the process. Ask that question, as it'll give you an answer.
Yeah. So before you spend 2.5 hours, ask for some help.
Well, now you know. So next time you won't spend 2.5 hours.
Daryl, did you have something you want to share?
No, I was just going to say this feels like a therapy session for me, which is fantastic because I have Renee's enthusiasm. I have Mike's wonder and just appreciation for how things have changed and what access I can do. But I live often and frequently in Liz's frustration because it's like, this should be easy. Everybody else is doing it. Apparently, you read about it, whatever, right? What am I missing? And I'm not stupid. So, and it's like finding the right tool for the right job, right? Do I need Midjourney or do I need Hedra? If you don't know what either one of those are, look it up. All right. But it's just like, there's no one tool that does it all. So as efficient and as great as it is, it's still a process and you have to make the investment, and it annoys the hell out of me sometimes for the exact same reasons that Liz says, and sometimes it's just outright stupid, and you always have to have your common sense hat on, because even though it's AI, the model is built upon data that it's, skimmed and scanned and whatnot. Not all that data is accurate. So just,
Daryl, this is some of what I was saying earlier, like for me anyway, that part of like the repeatable, dependable part is taking the time. So like Liz figured this out about spreadsheet. So now if there was enough value in what you got, that becomes something I've already figured out. It becomes something I figure out, can I make repeatable? Can I build this into a workflow or a process, right? How are the many different ways I could apply what I just learned And because I know how to do that now, right? Like, so what the frustration part is in my experimentation budget, right?
Yeah.
Of time. And then once I find things that work, it moves into my repeatable, dependable, reliable budget of time that I spend with it. And, I have to be prepared and understanding that these are frontier companies that are going to change things and break things. And I have to relearn. So I pay attention to when things are coming. And I either make sure I don't need to depend on it during that time, or that I have something that, I take the time to learn what they've changed so that I can get my dependable, repeatable thing back. There is a trade-off, right? If I had to base all of it solely on efficiency, I wouldn't be doing anything I'm doing right now. But if I want to think about better, I can promise you that I'm doing a lot of things better than I was able to do without it.
Agree. Totally agree.
One of the most frustrating things that I've run into with some of the GPTs that I've created, and it's not as much now, but it went through a period where this was happening, is it would return a result that was completely different than what I had expected it to. And I would have to reprompt and say, or to put a prompt back in, or actually more of a command, follow the original instructions. And then it would go ahead and go right back. It would forget all the crap that it did and go back and do the thing the right way, or the way that I had wanted it. Now we're at the point, and that would have been like 3.5. Now we're at the point where it's not doing that stuff again, and it's adding to, it's additive. So get out there and just test, and you can't break it. Like, there really isn't anything that you're going to do that's wrong, or test with something super simple. Like, let's say your favorite recipe is X, whatever it is. Just put in and see what it would come up with for a recipe. What's the best recipe for this other thing? And then kind of play around and test with it and see what you can do with it, what you can mold based on the experiment you run, because it's all just one giant experiment.
I want to have one more thought before we wrap up and see if you guys have any comments about this. But I think the other place that is really noisy right now, and you may not be as aware of it as I am in the role that I play, but there are so many new tools. So two things are happening. One is everyone is adding AI to their SaaS. And that is because that's what the market is driving. I can tell you that last year when I was at SaaStr, Jeremy said, if your SaaS tool does not have AI, no one will invest in it. Right?
It's the same as not having an integration in 2018.
Yeah. Thank
Right?
you.
So
thank
it
you.
must have AI. But at the same time, as a SaaS consultant, I am getting a lot of outreach from people who are creating AI sales tools, and they want me to give them an opinion. And there are so many. I can't fathom how all of these people who are producing AI tools just for sales, let alone all of the other things they create them for, how the market can possibly absorb it, and how we as consumers can figure out what it is that we should be buying or using or investing in learning. And I think that is another part of the noise that we really need to think about. Mike, you got something for me?
My perspective on this is identify the problem you want to solve, identify the job to be done. And if you do those things and stay focused on it, make it as simple as possible, the path will start to reveal itself, because there are so many things that you can do. And there are so many things that these tools can do. And there are so many things that they'll present themselves as doing. Test them, like put it through the process. See, to Renee's point, see if it's repeatable. The thing is repeatable. If you can't repeat it, it's like way back when everybody was doing, wasn't everybody doing discovered cold, had been able to replicate cold fusion way back when? And then you couldn't do it in a lab environment. And then people said, okay, maybe that's not really a thing that we're able to do at this point in time. Like, go in, apply the scientific method. Just do that. And if you don't know what the scientific method is, go into a chat and ask what the scientific method is, and then do that. And you'll be shocked at what you find there, because there's a lot of noise, and it's super easy to create new noise I wonder how much of this extra investment in these AI tools is just this giant money flow into something that's going to create a very interesting bubble because everybody's got it, but nobody knows what to do with it. I wonder.
Liz, I'd like to share one last tip that is also extremely helpful for me, and none of us have said it exactly, and that is I felt in 2020, early, maybe January of 2021, I fell into a group of GPT-3 enthusiasts. And back then, it was before ChatGPT, you only had access to it through API. And so I learned a ton from a group of people. And I have maintained some of those relationships over years where I stay current through group collective learning, right? And I highly recommend that everybody find some people. I know you work closely with Bren, for instance. Everybody find some people that you feel comfortable with, because you're going to admit what you don't know. You're going to admit your mistakes. You need to trust that whatever they're recommending is worth your time. Build up a small group of people that you can learn collectively with. It doesn't have to be in your organization. It doesn't have to be in your role. Nobody in mine does exactly what I do. That helps us bring different points of view right in, and talk about it and make it like we all have priorities, that we attend networking things or attend conferences or whatever for our continuing education. I think finding a group of people that you can commit to this continuing education with AI and figure out best practices that people are finding, what is repeatable, what's working, what tools to use, whatever, with people you trust, cannot be said enough.
So I want to just add with finish up with one last thought, unless anybody else has something they really want to share. But that is, in our last episode, we were talking about bots talking to each other. And I want to wrap up with what happens when your bots or your tools disagree. So I use ChatGPT and Claude and a couple of other things. And I also use Grammarly. And my Grammarly and my ChatGPT do not get along. Have you guys tried that? Because Grammarly does not like the way
I don't go anywhere without my Grammarly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think we're going to find a lot more of this as we incorporate more and more tools. The AI is not necessarily going to all say the same thing. And so we'll need to see where the AI leads us.
My new testing is I actually orchestrate multiple AI models together on projects, because they do say completely different things and they do excel at different things.
Yeah. Well, thanks for spending some time with us today in these last 4 episodes, talking about AI and how we can use it to improve our sales experience, our sales efforts, and our sales outcomes. I hope you'll join us here again next week if you've joined us live on LinkedIn Live, or listen to our next set of podcasts. Thanks to the crew, Mike and Renee and Daryl, for being here with me today. And you guys all have a great day and happy selling.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Sales SOS Podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope that episode has equipped you to navigate sales leadership with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to your Sales SOS Podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube. Until next time, keep sailing toward your sales goals.